And now with our lesson, Tim Junkins.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Everybody doing all right?
Yes.
See, if you tell people in advance that I'm speaking, we're going to keep running into this problem where people keep not showing up. Just kidding. No, it's a very busy, very well-traveled weekend because it's one of those magical holiday times where the holiday happens to fall attached to a weekend, which is great because last year on the 4th of July it fell on, I forget what it was, like Wednesday or Thursday. Yeah, it was Wednesday. And that's great because I love America as much as the next guy, but I have to get up at 5 in the morning for work. And so when fireworks are going off at 2 in the morning, because I have the joy of living in Anne Arundel County where it is super legal to buy fireworks. Like I'm buying groceries and I can buy fireworks with my groceries. That's how, America. But, it unfortunately gives people the right and the privilege to set off small explosives at 2 in the morning while I'm trying to sleep. And so it was very nice to have it on Friday. I went to a couple of small cookouts, just friends and family, things like that. The highlight of my weekend was my brother's family was at this one cookout and there was a pool there. And so my sister-in-law's sister, I always forget how to say that, is in town visiting, and she had my nephew Archer, who's only 17 months, but he had his adorable little wetsuit, and she's guiding him around the pool, getting him used to water. And when he sees me, she swims along the edge of the pool, and she says, "Look, Uncle Tim's here," and he holds out his arms.
Oh.
And I said, "Can't say no to that." I'm wearing a polo shirt and a pair of shorts and a pair of sneakers, and I just grab that soaking wet baby out of the water and I give him the biggest hug I can. Because you're a monster if you don't do that. I mean, let's be honest, it's an adorable baby. It doesn't matter that he's covered in water, pick him up. So, and we had a good moment, and everybody at the party was really, really super shocked. And so it's one of those things where a lot of people are out traveling, so of course we want to keep them in our thoughts and prayers. One of the big things is around holidays like this, traveling's a nightmare. And traffic is a nightmare in general around here. My best friend and I have a near weekly tradition, it's not every week, but kind of sort of, where at the end of the work week, which it happened to be Thursday this week, hooray, we usually go out for some kind of meal. We go out for steak or Sakura or something like that. And it's just a cathartic go out and gripe about work and just have some fun, talk about the weekend and all that. And as we're leaving the particular restaurant we're at, there's a highway, and there's the lane we're in turning left, and there's the other lane turning right. And this gentleman, whoever he was, had gotten into the right lane, realized it was a horrible mistake. Just horrible mistake. He needed to go left when he was going right instead. And you ask yourself, what should you do in this situation? Should you make the right turn and go up to a safe distance and make a U-turn? No, how about we reverse 12 car lengths to get into the left lane? How about we do that instead? And stuff like that always gets me thinking. You always see that on the highway. You see somebody who misses their exit and they pull over to the shoulder and you can almost see the gears turning through the car. Well, I could go up one more exit as the law demands and make a safe. No, I'm just going to reverse. I'm just going to put it into reverse. I'm going to reverse the wrong direction on the highway so I can get my exit. And I say the same thing every time. Well, in their defense, they're probably in a hurry. Come on, that's a valid excuse, right? Come on.
Yeah.
So, I'm in a hurry sometimes. But it's one of those things where you look at that as a prime example of basic problem solving. And you look at it when you're faced with a task, and your options are, you can take the more reckless knee-jerk approach, or you can think things through and plan it out accordingly and do that. But, a lot of people don't do that. The passage we're reading today is going to be out of Philippians chapter 4. We're going to be talking about the idea of decision-making, about how we're supposed to approach situations. And I think life often provides us situations which are presented in the wrong way, so that we can look at that, kind of have a chuckle over it. More importantly, realize that it's something that hopefully we won't do as people. We want to go out there, we want to be safe in the world, we want to be good representations, and so violating major traffic laws, even for when we're in a hurry, is probably not the way to go. And it's one of those things, where like it actually kind of irritates some people who travel with me because like I'll be in the wrong lane and I'll make that turn and I'll make the turn around. It's like you could have just like gunned it at the light and got ahead of them. I'm like, yeah, that sounds super safe. Let's do that. And so we look at that and we try and look at how we solve problems and how oftentimes when we try the knee-jerk approach, when we try the quick approach, when we try to get through the problem as fast as possible, we often wind up making the wrong decision, and of course we make the problem worse. It's not to say that every person who reverses on the highway is going to get into an accident, but when it happens, that person is liable for that. They decide to take the easier way out, probably because they were in a hurry. They get into an accident which delays them several hours, causes them financial headache, and if they had just taken the proper approach to the situation, they would have been fine. It would have been a small delay as opposed to a great delay. What we're talking about today is also more importantly the idea of patience, which is something I think I've been tasked with. I think it might be my mission from God to learn about patience. Because it's one of those things where each and every day and each and every week there seems to be more and more building opportunities to practice patience. And when I first started working here, there was actually this quote on the website for a long time about, because I actually used to teach high school a couple of years ago. And so out of college, I wanted to learn more about patience. And so I asked God for patience, and he got me a job teaching high school. So like that was that's one of my all-time favorite quotes, is I asked for patience and God has me teach high school. And that's where you learn a pretty substantial amount of patience. And so it's one of those things where lately, not just in a workplace setting, but also in a personal setting, my parents, and I really hope they don't mind me talking about this, have been going through this really substantial problem with my father's knee surgery. He was supposed to have knee replacement surgery, there was an infection, 4 to 8 weeks of antibiotics, goes back into surgery, infection's still there, 4 to 8 weeks of antibiotics, currently waiting on another round of surgery, which was supposed to be the 3rd week of this month, but got delayed by 10 days because of something going on with the surgeon personally. And it's one of those things where you just, at first you just want to laugh it off. You just want to, that's crazy, we have the worst luck. And then at a certain point, that line starts to blur, where you don't even feel comfortable joking about it anymore, because you're just afraid you're going to say the wrong thing. And so, a couple of weeks ago, I asked my father how he was doing, because I still work for the company that he works for, he works from home, and so I talk to him on a daily basis, mainly about work, but from time to time we'll check on him and be like, how are you doing with all of this? How are you handling all this? Just taking it one day at a time. I'm like, where on earth did you hear crazy information like that? He's like, a couple of years ago. And so it's one of those things that, and I really weighed the options on whether or not to talk about this because it is a rather personal subject to me. But it's really one of those things where I look back at a couple of years ago and how I was, and how I had this whole attitude of just take it one day at a time and God will take care of you, and how eventually the world just kind of keeps hammering us down and hammering us down, and maybe that attitude starts to get fuzzy and it starts to go away a little bit. Maybe we're not as optimistic as we used to be. Sure, we still go to church and we believe in God, but in the heat of those moments, we really start to wonder about those things. We really start to wonder if things are going on. And so my prime example has always been that if my father can hold this ship-shape attitude, if he can really keep things in check and really keep his faith in God, this was supposed to be wrapped up around the Super Bowl, just frame of reference, first week in February. This thing was supposed to be done. He was supposed to be on the way to recovery. It is summer outside, people. It is not February. It is not March. It is not April. It's certainly not May. It is not June. It is July. And so we're here in this circumstance where I really wanted to talk about this today. I wanted to talk about the idea of patience and what it really means to trust in God. So we're looking at Philippians chapter 4, verses 4 through 9 today. And this first verse, of course, extremely familiar to people. Rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. See, that's the part, and like right there, we immediately have a problem with it in the back of our minds. Our knee-jerk reaction is rejoice. What are we rejoicing about? Like, oh, work's not going great, or things are kind of rough at home, or traffic's going to be bad, and we draw upon all these excuses inside our own mind. And so, like really, when you look at rejoice, you're talking about a very basic, intense emotion of feeling joy. Because I mean, I'm happy pretty much all the time. I'm happy when my package from Amazon shows up. I'm happy when I get to have dinner with my friend on the weekends. I'm happy that I got to sleep in at least a couple days this weekend. That was so nice. And so that stuff makes me happy. But joy, to rejoice, to feel joy, is an entirely different experience. It is something that at the core of it, when you feel joy, nothing bothers you. Like to feel joy is to feel this intense emotion, this satisfaction that is so much greater than happiness, that it puts you out of a bad mood. It pulls you out of it. It's something that is worthwhile experiencing. And while I'm happy and satisfied a good deal of the time, I don't always feel joy. And so rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. A point so important, he says it twice. Let your gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about everything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. Don't be anxious about anything. That makes me anxious. That's what we call irony. There's this great quote I heard once, is, have you ever tried to relax? It's a paradox. You can't try to relax, you just have to relax. And so, don't be anxious about everything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. Put them out there. Because honestly, when I'm dealing with stress, when I'm dealing with things that kind of bother me, I don't always present them to God. Because this is my problem. I'm going to hold on to it over here. This is my problem. I'm going to solve this one myself. I'm going to figure out everything. And there was more than one time last week where I had to stop, and I had to stop what I was doing, and I had to set it aside and said, all right, God, I done goofed. I really need your help on this one. And there are times where we run into that. There are times where, like I was saying earlier, when we try and solve the problems immediately, when we try and fix them on our own, when we try and say, okay, I've got enough strength, I've got enough willpower and constitution to fix this problem on my own, and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do it, and then I fail. And it's one of those things where when that moment comes, when that moment is there and you realize that your strength isn't enough, I actively stop and I go off by myself and I just utter a small, simple prayer. And it is always, Lord, give me focus. That's the one thing I lack during my week. I need the opportunity to objectively look at the situation. I need the ability to stop and stand back and look at the big picture and realize that this one problem going on today is not going to end the world. It's not going to bankrupt the company I work for. It's not going to make me lose my job. It's not going to shatter all of my relationships and all the good things in my life. It's a problem that simply needs to be solved. And some days, most days, it's not enough for me to go at it alone. And so I go and in every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. Because despite our best intentions, despite what we think about ourselves, God is always listening. God is always taking requests. The phone line is always open. That hypothetical 800 number that we dial into to call God, that is always on. He is always there. He is always live. He is always ready to deal with our requests. Now, with that being said, it is not always the answers that we want. It's not. And that's because we don't see the bigger picture. And that's the hardest thing for us to deal with as people. Because we don't see the bigger picture. The one thing, and I told myself I wasn't going to talk about work this week, but because I actually had somebody come up to me last week and go, you complain about your job a lot. And I'm like, I guess if anybody had the opportunity to stand up here, I'm sure that might be the first thing out of everybody's mouth. I'm sure. But it's one of those things where at the company I work with, and this isn't even a slight or a complaint, it's just that everybody, and you may be able to relate to this, everybody's task is the most important task in the world. There's not a single task more important than the thing that I need to accomplish. So when other people come to me and ask me to solve their problems, I have to say, no, my thing is the most important thing in the world, and there will never be a more important task than the task I have been assigned. Because apparently I'm seeking like Excalibur or something in my job. I'm like, no, I have a holy quest. I must find the Grail or the Sword and the Stone or something like that. No, it's not that. You know, it'd be cool if it was that, but no, it's an office job, whatever. And so it's one of those things where people complain a lot in their workplace settings because their thing isn't getting done. Their thing, their most important thing in the world, blah, 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 is not getting done. And so we don't see the bigger picture, and that's kind of how it is at my job, is like, I don't see the bigger picture. I see my thing. I have been given my thing, the thing must be done. It absolutely must be done. And so it's one of those things where when people come to you with other problems, it's derailing and it's frustrating and kind of angers you a little bit. And so we have to present our requests to God because whether or not we get the answer that we seek, God knows the bigger picture. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. And this is the passage that got me thinking about my father today. Is the fact that he has put his faith in God. He has put his faith in a higher power. He has put his faith in something that transcends all understanding. Because as far as the world is concerned, it's time to get frustrated. It's time to get mad. This was supposed to be solved by now. There's an expression my brother and I always use, especially because my best friend who I spoke of earlier is a rocket scientist who works at NASA or something crazy like that. And so the expression is, we put a man on the moon. And so that's always our question, is like when we can't solve a problem, it's like, this is America, we put a man on the moon. Why can't we solve this me thing, you know? And so, and as far as the world is concerned, it's time to get angry, it's time to get frustrated, it's time to lash out against people and be bitter about it because we don't have the answers that we want. And so, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus and give you a sense of comfort. And that's something that is foreign to us. The idea of letting go of a problem, of simply letting it go and knowing that if I do what I need to do, and if I believe that God will take care of me, if I believe that the gift of Jesus Christ will take care of me, then everything will be fine. And that's a terrifying thought to us on most days. The idea of letting something go, of simply discarding it as a problem. Because it's not something that we need to be thinking about. It's not something we need to be focusing about. Because it's a distraction in our lives. It's one of those things that when we really think about it, when we really get down to it, letting it go is the best thing for us. It's the absolute best thing for us. The ability to take that problem, to take that burden, to take that thing. Because you know exactly what I'm talking about. It lives, it might live here, or it might live here. For me, it lives about here. Like, this is where problems live. It's about the exact center of my forehead. That's where problems set up shop and start selling t-shirts and stuff like that. And so, it's one of those things that, like, I just want to get rid of that. I just want to get it out of me. Because it is affecting me in a physical manner. Like a problem at work that does not cause illness, does not cause pain, does not cause heart rate, is affecting me physically, which is crazy. And so it's tasked upon us to take those tasks and to just simply let them go. To put them out there, to let us be guarded in spirit and in body and in mind in Christ Jesus. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Whatever you have learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, put it into practice, and the God of peace will be with you. That's truly a grand invitation. is to say that if we take these words, if we take the words that were written to this church, and then in turn the words are also written to us as Christians. That's why we read these letters. We read them because there's a practical application there. Because despite age, despite how many times it's been translated, despite geographical differences, despite any of those things, the Bible is extremely relevant. It is not kind of relevant. It is not sort of relevant. There are not parts of it that are relevant. It is relevant in our daily lives. It is something that we can go out and we can apply. We can take these words, and more importantly, like the reason I took this out of the book of Philippians today is because, and I've talked about this before, it is my favorite book of the Bible. It's one of those Bibles, or it's one of those books of the Bible that you can read. You can read it start to finish in about half an hour, and it is chock full of the best information for modern living. It is so extremely relevant, it is frightening. That when you read this, and it says, do things without grumbling and complaining. Persevere to the goal. Press on. You know, the book of Philippians talks about all these things, and more importantly, here in chapter 4, verse 4, it says, rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. Because that joy is, and it's hard to imagine, it is better than having stuff show up from Amazon. So, it is better than having dinner with your best friend. It is better than having a good day at work. It is a peace of mind that only comes with following this message. I love that at the end of the book here, he says, put it into practice and the God of peace will be with you. And it's such a simple order and a seemingly impossible task. Come on, just go out there and do it. Just go out there and be better people. Let God handle things. Let it go. Have it be one of those things where you simply put it out of mind and God will take care of it for you. And it's spoken so simply. And I commented on this a couple of weeks ago with my sermon, Do Something, about the idea of going out there and choosing to commit to an action. Finding a task or a responsibility and just seizing hold of it and going out there and doing it. And this is an extension of that. The idea that within our own lives, that before we go out there, we solve all the world's problems, and we solve every disease, and solve and end war, and end world hunger, and all that, and all the goals we aspire to do. We have to first start with ourselves and say, God, I've got things to work on. Because what comes with letting it go, what comes with putting it out there, is a confidence that comes from it. And it is not an arrogance. It is not a justification to the world that says, I'm a Christian and I've got all my problems solved. I've got zero problems up in here. I've got nothing going on. You should be more like me. It's not like that. How great would it be if it was like that? Seriously.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where when we take it on a day-to-day basis, much like my father does, where he just takes it on a day-to-day basis, and he continues to work, and he continues to try and better himself, and he continues to work on physical therapy, and he will hopefully, knock on wood, all that stuff, get better by the fall. And it's one of those things that I know that is inspiring to me. That I can go out, I can go out and I can be a better person because an example has been set before me. One of the great honors I had at this party on Friday is my old youth minister was there. Him and his family moved to Texas about 10 years ago, but they were in town visiting family, and they had come by this party. And I actually got to talk to him, which is funny because, you know how social networking and Facebook is, and we've talked all this time he's been gone. Shot little messages back and forth, said, hey, how's it going, how's the family? He's seen my posts, I've seen his posts. But this was the first time in 10 years that him and I have actually talked face to face, or even audibly. This is the first time I've heard his voice in 10 years. And so I got to tell him, you did a good job. Because graduated high school, which was a surprise. I graduated college, which was an even bigger surprise. And I am pursuing a career where I get to do what I want to do, which is this. I get to pursue that. And I get to thank him personally for that. And that's something that we don't always get as teachers and mentors and things like that. Because at a certain point, the person is ready to go into the world, and they're ready to go off, and they're ready to do their own thing. And sometimes we don't always get that satisfaction of meeting them a decade later, and then personally like giving you a hug or shaking your hand or thanking you for like doing such a great job. But even if we don't get that, it is still a worthwhile pursuit to be an inspiration to people. To go out there to demonstrate that we can practice patience and to demonstrate that we believe in a power that is greater and beyond us. Because that's really the most foreign thing to people in this day and age. We live in a modern, independent culture. We have Independence Day. We have the day that we declare our independence from another nation. And so in this nation, it is an unusual concept to be so dependent on higher power. To say that I cannot do it alone. And I have this dependence on Jesus Christ. And I need Him to help me and help me stay focused and help me solve my problems. But it is a power that is worth pursuing. Because when Paul writes and he says, "Rejoice in the Lord always," I will say it again, rejoice. He is not just saying it, he is exclaiming it. You know, in some of the translations, I says, "I will say it again, rejoice." And he puts it out there with an exclamation mark. Because it's not something he's selling. It's not something he's trying to con you into. It is something he believes in. It is something that is out there that, see, I woke everybody up. So that's good. You know, keeping everybody on their toes. And so it's one of those things where when we look at that, and we truly understand it, we truly believe it, and we get baptized and we truly become part of it, at that point we understand the joy that comes with it. Those small, serene moments. You know, I had off work on Friday. That was great. That was amazing, actually. You know, I didn't sleep in because I never seem to sleep in, but I got to lay around a lot. That was pretty cool. And so it is an experience like that and a moment of relaxation that is amplified so much by the peace of mind of knowing that we don't have to worry about it. The one thing I hope, and I know we struggle with, and I know I struggle with, is when we're here on Sundays, I hope we feel that joy. I hope we feel that connection. Because I don't want you to worry about what's going on for lunch, or where do you have to be this afternoon, or how much work do you have to get done this weekend. I'm hoping that when we're here, we can put those things out of our mind. And we can join together as a congregation, and we can worship a Lord who wants nothing more than for us to feel peace. That is why in the last verse he is described, "And the God of peace will be with you." A God of peace who loves us so much that He sacrificed His one and only Son for us. And if you're here today and you want to feel that connection, if you want to be part of that, if you're already part of that, and you just need a jump start, if you just need thoughts and prayers or a realignment, spirituality is a lot like a car in a way. It's got to be maintained, it's got to be fueled up. When it gets broken, it's got to be fixed. Which is great because I know absolutely nothing about cars. I was kind of just me grabbing an analogy there. But it's one of those things where if you're here and you need that, if you need that realignment, if you need that jump start, I ask you to contemplate that as we stand and sing the song of invitation.
Each day I'll do a golden deed by helping those who are in need. My life on earth is but a span, and so I'll do the best I can. Life's evening sun is shall sing his praise while ages roll and strive to help some troubled soul, life's evening sun is sinking low. A few more days, I must go to meet the deeds that I have done, where there will be no setting sun, while going down life's weary road. I'll try to lift some traveler's load. I'll try to turn the night to day. Make flowers bloom along the way, life's evening sun is sinking low. A few more days, I must go to meet the deeds that I have done, where there will be no setting sun. Be seated, please.
Good morning.